As you minister here, these years at the retreat center, what has amazed you? What has moved you in your encounter with the people who come, who hunger for meaning, for love, for a clarity in their lives? What has resonated with your own experience in ministering in Ignatian spirituality and in the spiritual exercises?
Well, how over and over again retreatants discover that they're surprised. They're surprised by how God is active in their lives. They may come with certain expectations or hopes and so forth, and God takes them in a different direction, which is a clear indication of God's personal love for them, that person. And that happens over and over again. It's so very dynamic spirituality. And God continues to be active in different ways in different people's lives. Every retreat is different. Every time a person makes a retreat, that retreat experience is going to be different. Every time we approach a gospel is going to be different. And that's evidence of God's infinite care for us. So to expect the same thing over and over again would not communicate that intimacy that God has for each one of us. So to see that over and over again in people's lives is very exciting and very hope-filled and faith-deepening.
I think what surprises me is the retreatants' openness, courage, and generosity. Openness to being surprised by God. As you mentioned, Kevin, sometimes they come with many hopes and dreams for their retreats, and then they are pleasantly surprised to realize that God has taken those desires and replaced them with even better desires. So that's one. And the other one is their courage. When they come here to pray, they sometimes feel an invitation coming from the Lord, and their courage to even explore what that invitation might look like. And then their generosity, sometimes they come here with a lot of fears about what it is that God might be asking of them, and so there's this trepidation. But then all of a sudden, as they dive more deeply into prayer, there's a loosening of their hearts, and then they discover that they are a lot more generous than when they had first started here, that they are willing to give of their time to prayer and generous with the Lord in terms of saying yes to whatever it is that they discern God is calling them in their lives.
What surprised and bring me a lot of joy is to see how people hunger for a depth in their lives, whether it's meaning, whether it's purpose, or a greater freedom. And I'm surprised always by people's capacity, even when they come rather broken and hurting, how being touched by God's grace and the healing process of love, they stand up and they gain a confidence and a voice. And it's a night and day to see that happening over and over again in people's lives. It just speaks to how tender and gentle God is with us. And so often we strut along through life with such burden and heaviness. And to come to rest here is to rediscover who they really are in God's sight as God's beloved sons and daughters. Any last words about your experience here and the engagement in Ignatian spirituality and retreat work?
Just be grateful for this ministry, grateful for the call I've received to engage in this ministry, but also grateful for those who come to us, have their own desires, and also those who support this ministry. So it really is a ministry of gratitude.
I want to echo that. This is a ministry of gratitude, but it's also a unique gift that we Jesuits make available to the wider church, the universal church, the ministry of the spiritual exercises. Um, and so, just being able to contribute and to work in this ministry is such a privilege. In fact, this is my first assignment after ordination, so to be given this mission by the provincial to do this is really a great source of joy for me.
For me, Ignatian spirituality gets encapsulated in the mystery of love, of God's love pouring out on creation on each person, and touched by that love, transformed, we become instruments, channels of that love and consolation for others. I think that's the heart of what we're about here, to help people fall in love again and to recommit to the love of God and of one another. So thank you for listening to us, and I hope that you will encounter the Ignatian spirituality and the exercises that can continue to touch and transform your own lives. God bless.